Folks, welcome back to the Tailored Tax Show, the podcast for highly paid, highly taxed, and high profile taxpayers. And then Big Al, we decided to also add high net worth and ultra high net worth taxpayers because they also deserve to save a bunch on taxes legally.
Of course. Of
That's
course.
what that's what the show is all about, folks. This is episode 32, and today we're going to talk about using life insurance to grow wealth. So, quick introduction for those who don't know us yet. My name is Terrence Taylor, co-founder of Taylor Tax, and I'm an enrolled agent. And this is my partner, Big Al Darnell Jr. Say what's up, Big Al?
Hey, I'm Big Al. And I love my mama. I am what you call a winner and an enrolled agent. So, just wanted to introduce myself.
I love it. I love it. Folks, we are so giddy because this topic is one that's near and dear to our hearts. And who would have thunk it that the tax code would allow you to build wealth through something called life insurance? But it's true. So this is how we're going to do it. Last time, Big Al spent all that time talking, and I could only ask one or two questions. So this time, to make it fair and right and just, I'm going to spend most of the time talking. Folks, as you can tell, we're having too much fun with this. But in all seriousness, this is my turn to talk a little bit about this subject, and Big Al's going to chime in and say a few things, ask a few questions, add a lot of value, though. That's for sure. So, what do we want to talk about? So, cash value accumulation. We'll tell you what cash value is one way that life insurance helps you to grow wealth. Also, you get wonderful things like dividend paying whole life insurance policies that you can reinvest. You also get market-linked growth through the index universal life policies. You can also use policy loans, which is our favorite part, to acquire assets. And these loans are tax-free in your hands. And you do get the tax advantage of the deferral on taxes as the cash value grows. And then last but not least, since we always think about what you can do with retirement income, you also get tax-free retirement income as a supplement to whatever else you may have going on through life insurance. All right, Big Al, that's a lot of things to cover.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. But we're just the men to cover them, Just the men to cover them. No, I'm excited to hear about all of these, and I've got thoughts about all these too. So fire away.
All right, folks. First things first. Let's talk about what cash value is. So there's a category of insurance that's known as permanent life insurance. And in this category, you have things like whole life, you have variable universal life, and then you also have index universal life policies. And the reason why these are known as permanent life policies is because these policies are there to basically protect you for the duration of your life. Whereas term life policies, you tend to buy it for a period of time, ergo the word term, right? So that's the first thing. So how does cash value enter this equation? So with term, there's no such thing as cash value, but with permanent life, there is cash value. And cash value is a portion of the premium that you've paid for the life insurance is earmarked for your use and as almost like a piece of equity that grows over time. So that's what cash value is. And Big Al, the wonderful thing about using life insurance to grow wealth is you can grow cash value. It accumulates over time when the policy is structured properly. And one of the things that you brought to the world, I believe, is this notion of equity centers. So I don't know if you want to touch a little bit on that before we go to the next feature.
I'd love to talk about it. Yeah, so an equity center is just a repository of equity, a place where equity is stored that you can easily access and replenish at your own leisure. You don't have to submit a new application. You don't need permission. It is just a source for you to access funds through equity that you've set up through the assets that you put in place.
Okay, fantastic. And folks, there are different types of life insurance companies. One of them, a category of life insurance company, is called mutual, or companies that are known as mutual companies. And these are companies that are very happy if you have things like whole life insurance with them to pay you a dividend. And one strategy that folks have used over time to grow wealth using life insurance is they take that dividend that's paid on their whole life policy and they reinvest it into the policy, thus making the cash value grow faster. So they accelerate, they amplify the value and growth in their cash value. Anything to add there, Big Al?
Um, no, I think no, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love it. Let's go to the third thing. Market linked growth through the Index Universal Life Policy. This is one of my favorite features. So Index Universal Life policies allow you to pick an index like the S&P 500 or the Russell 2000, but let's stick with the S&P 500. And your premiums, when you pay them and the cash value begins to accumulate, what the policy is doing is acting as if you've invested, you've put your premium into the market and have bought the S&P 500, right? But the beautiful thing is you haven't put your money in the market. So there is no risk of you losing money. And the way the index feature works is as the index that you pick grows, you get to participate on the upside. And some of these policies do have caps, meaning that you get to participate up to a certain amount or percentage of growth. And then after that, you're capped. So for example, 10%, you're capped. And the most beautiful part is if you saw the market crashing as we've experienced over time, your money is actually safe because your money wasn't invested in the market. And your money has this index feature, which basically creates a floor at zero. So you get the upside as if you were invested in the market through the premiums, but you get downside protection.
Yeah.
Anything to add, Big Al?
Yeah, 100%. I think this is the crux of how wealth is built using insurance, just from my perspective, primarily because when we're talking about wealth, which is different from riches, all right? Riches are something that you have now, but you're going to be spending later. Wealth is something that you have now that grows and you can live off of just the interest alone. All right, so now when with the index universal life component being tied to an index, these indexes have 120 years or more where they've proven growth over time, maybe 8 to 10% of growth, average annual growth. So now once you put this money in there, it's growing, but not only is it growing according with the index, it's growing tax-free. And that's a huge component. So that's how you're going to be able to live off of the interest from it, because what you're doing is you're taking policy loans and hopefully only accessing the interest. That way, it's more like a perpetuity, meaning it's a annuity, a perpetual annuity with no end, so long as you do not draw from the actual principal. So by being inside of the vehicle of insurance, you're gaining tax-free growth that you can access in order to purchase additional assets and additional ways of building up your wealth. So I think it's a great thing you just hit on.
Yeah, and very well said, Big Al, and beautiful segue into using policy loans, right? So
Yeah.
that's the game. That's the name of the game, folks. When you get insurance policy that allows you to build cash value over time, it also gives you this feature where you can borrow up to 90% of the accumulated cash value at any time. And you tend to get it at an interest rate that's less than the rate that your premiums are growing. So you don't have to come out of pocket to service that loan. And the most beneficial thing to do when you're trying to use life insurance to grow wealth is then to invest that money into assets.
Yeah.
And this is the Big Al strategy: buy and build more equity centers.
100%. I'm gonna tell you
Right?
this. The thing is,
Yeah.
and just to kind of talk about that 0% floor you mentioned with these IUL policies, which to me is in the top 3 most alluring benefits of using insurance to build wealth, is because a lot of people that don't like to think about, when they think about passive income, they're thinking about, hey, set it and forget it. and it's just going to
Mm-hmm.
build up money. Now, a big thing when it comes to investing is a lot of people say, unless you are a trained stock market analyst, you shouldn't be trying to pick stocks and just go with the indexes and so forth. And
Mm-hmm.
then even when you're going with an index, there's this thing that they call dollar cost averaging in order to make sure that you get the average, you know, increase from the market and not that you just jumped in when it was low or high. Beautiful thing about with these policy loans, and you mentioning that you can only have a 0% floor, but you
Mm-hmm.
can have the full increase that
Mm-hmm.
that index gives you, is that you don't have to incorporate negative interest or negative returns
Mm-hmm.
throughout the year into your
Mm-hmm.
average, which then lends you to having an average above those outside of in those that invest outside of insurance, the
Mm-hmm.
cash value portion
Mm-hmm.
of insurance get. So, because like just think about it like this: is if there's over if there are 4 times that I invest and one time
Mm-hmm.
it's negative 10%, the
Mm-hmm.
market is low. It's negative
Mm-hmm.
10%. The next time it's positive 10%. The next
Mm-hmm.
time it's negative 10%. The next time it's positive 10%. Then I'm going to have an average of zero outside of insurance. However,
Mm-hmm.
inside of this IUL policy that you mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
what'll happen is if I get in at a negative 10% time, that's just zero. And
Mm-hmm.
then positive 10%, negative
Mm-hmm.
10% again, I'm back at zero.
Mm-hmm.
Positive 10, I'm back at 10. So what that
Mm-hmm.
does is it averages out to more like a 5%
Mm-hmm.
situation. You know,
Mm-hmm.
10% or yeah, 20% divided by 4 entry or X
Time
points.
period. Mm-hmm.
So now we're averaging 5%, whereas outside of the insurance policy, we'd be averaging 0% of a return. And
Mm-hmm.
that is especially over time, the
Mm-hmm.
compounding effects that higher average gains you
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
is astronomical.
Mm-hmm.
Astronomical.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, back to
Hey,
you.
thanks for that, Big Al. And one thing um, to amplify that you shared. So when I was talking about these policies, I shared with you that there tends to be a cap, and Big Al has a point. You could also have your policy structured in such a way that you do participate in the full upside. You just have to pay extra premium to get that. And there are even some structures where you could earn more than the index delivers, like let's say 2x, for example. But again, you have to pay more. And we tend to be very creative, but we also try to be conservative because we know it's your money, it's your hard earned money. And unless you're trying to go like really, really aggressive, hey, participating in the index and having a cap of like, let's say 10%, hey, what a pleasure, right? All right,
So
Big
let me
Al,
ask
let's
you
look
this:
at the,
Would you say
yes, sir.
creative? We're creatively conservative or conservatively creative? What would you say?
Creatively conservative, sir.
All right,
Not
there
conservatively creative,
it
creatively conservative. And the distinction, folks, is if you're conservatively creative, then the way we look at it is then you're starting from the base of like, well, I don't know, like I don't really want to take too many risks. When you're creatively conservative, you are okay with risk and reward, but you also are not trying to gamble.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
if you're playing the wealth game, as some folks like to say, you can get rich slowly and surely, or you can try to get rich quick.
yeah,
We prefer that you get rich slowly and surely,
yeah, yeah,
because if you get rich quick, maybe you can lose it quickly as well. All right.
yeah.
The last two are combined really because we're looking at taxes now. And here's the beautiful thing about life insurance. It's the one of the most, if not the most tax advantage instrument that the Internal Revenue Code allows, the IRC. And there's just so many great things about it. One of them is that when your cash value is growing and accumulating, it's growing and accumulating in a tax deferred way, Big Al. And many of us who have worked at companies understand this feature from things like 401ks, right? Where you
Mhm.
put the money in, it doesn't get taxed, and you only get taxed when you take the money out. All right. So this tax deferral is huge, Big Al, because to your earlier point about when something is compounding,
Mhm.
so when the growth is compound growth, it grows so much faster than when it's linear growth. And, we don't want to rabbit hole into that conversation, but just take it on good word, and you could do the math yourself to see what the power of compound growth is versus the power of linear growth. Okay, Big Al, anything to add before I share the last part?
No, sir.
All right, let's talk about the fact that when you have access to life insurance, it could also help you out with retirement. And we've talked about this in a few of our previous podcasts, right? Here's the beautiful thing. If you have a 401k, you've had tax deferred growth in that account, but it's been exposed to the market, right? So unlike this index universal life where the index feature zeroes out any losses, if you're invested in the market in a 401k, when the market loses money, you lose money. And many people experienced that in 2008, 2020, 2021. Now, with tax-free retirement income from an index universal life policy, for example, the beautiful thing is the money that you're receiving can complement, supplement, add to any money that you're getting from things like 401k or individual retirement accounts, IRAs. And this money, because it came through a life insurance policy, when you structure properly and you withdraw it through a policy loan, when you take it out through a policy loan or a properly structured withdrawal, you pay no tax on it as long as the policy stays in force. What does it mean to stay in force? Well, the policy doesn't lapse. What does it mean to lapse? You weren't putting enough money into the policy, so it ran out of the premium it needed to keep going. If that should happen, and God forbid, we pray to the ancestors, God, the universe, the universal creative mind, whatever you believe in. I happen to believe in all four, to never let your insurance policy lapse or for your insurance policy to be reclassified as a modified endowment contract, because that means you lose all of the tax benefits. But Big Al, this was a happy podcast when we started it. We want to end it on a happy note, not on a sad note. So, folks, imagine an instrument that allows you to protect your life and to grow your wealth, and to do so in the most tax advantaged way possible. That's what life insurance is. Big Al, any closing thoughts?
No, I think this is a good podcast, a good explanation of the options and aspects available with building wealth with insurance, as well as a healthy dose of tax benefits associated with it as well.
Okay, fantastic. And if folks want to just, mess around and ask a few questions about taxes, where should they go, Big Al?
Well, they should go to Tax Strategies GPT on the OpenAI platform. So please check that out. Plug the stuff in. Terrence did a great job in creating a GPT that could answer all your questions according to the Internal Revenue Code. However, we always caution you to reach out to a professional such as Terrence at tailoredtax.ai or myself, Big Al, at tailoredtax.ai before you try to implement any of those strategies specifically in your tax home.
Yeah. And folks, just so you know, there are probably 4 or 5 different ways to spell Terrence. So if you want to make sure you get through, spell it TERRENCE at Tailored Tax, TAYLOREDTAX.ai. And Big Al, one other thing.
Yeah.
We messed around and created another GPT because insurance is such a specialized field. Yeah. So folks could also check out Tailored Insurance Guide if you want to ask specific questions about insurance and any of these podcasts that you've listened to. So that's also available on the GPT store. Folks, thank you so much for the time. We will see you soon.
All right. Cheers.